explained maybe once or twice. They didn't really need to put a lot of time into clarifying, nor did the Sahaba require a lot of time for it to be clarified, because it was just understood. It was a part of what Islam was about, or what life is about. And my sense, the reason I'm choosing these topics, the choice of these topics, is based on my sense that maybe to a certain degree, we have lost a little bit of that clarity, meaning we have kind of drifted off a little bit from the medium, and things that were extremely clear to those who came before us, and things that are very clear in the Quran and clear in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ don't seem to be as clear to people today, as much as clear as it should be, or as clear as they should be. So I'm choosing these topics to kind of cover them with that intention in mind, is to make sure that this is clear, and something that you can even share with your children or people who are coming up the ranks within their lives, to understand that these things aren't really debatable. Like these are norms, these are maxims that just by being Muslim, by the default of being Muslim, you're supposed to accept and kind of understand. And many of them are very realistic, meaning they're not. I didn't put a lot of mythical aspects here. Like I didn't put, I didn't talk about a lot of aspects of ghaib, which are things that we accept. And there's a lot of ghaib that we accept, and being Muslim, you just accept it. The concept of tawheed and the malaika and the rusul and the kutub and yawm al-akhir and all that kind. These are ghaib, and we accept a lot of these because most people do. Like most people are okay with aspects of ghaib. Interestingly enough, what does not seem to be understood well or accepted are actually realistic, pragmatic aspects of life in general, and that's the point of this series. So today we're going to talk about difficulties, and as every session, start with a statement that I think we need. A statement that summarizes kind of what I'm going to be talking about and what I believe is central. So obviously, life is going to be filled with difficulties and tribulations. That's just life. Again, this first piece of this first sentence is not as clear as I thought it would be. Like to a lot of people, people in their 20s don't seem to understand it. Like I get it. My son is 12. He may not understand this. Like he may not be ready to fully comprehend or absorb this piece of being alive. But if you're in your 20s and this is still not clear to you, then I don't know what bubble have you been living in. And someone should pop that bubble for you as soon as possible, because once life kind of starts dealing what it has within it, you're going to be very. So this is what it was promised. We are promised by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Promised that life is going to have difficulties, it's going to have challenges and turbulations. And this is how nature was designed. Nature was designed this way. This is not something that, again, it's not by fault or by flaw. Now, when I talked about the fact that Islam has more than one opinion, I told you this is by design. It's not some mistake of a generation. They failed to preserve something. No, this is by design. And so is nature. Nature is designed. By design, is going to have pain in it. It's just how it is. It's put together that way. For you to object to that is, those who object to it, I just find that one of the most, it's an interesting objection, because it tells me a lot about the mindset that allows for that objection to exist within it altogether. Just, you didn't grow up in the desert. Yeah, I can say pretty clearly that you didn't grow up in the slums anywhere. You grew up in you had a specific upbringing for this objection to even exist in your mind, for you to even entertain this altogether, which is what I wanted to point out today. Entering life with any other expectation will bring misery and disappointment. If you walk into life expecting anything else, expecting it not to have these things within it, that's just going to make you very miserable and disappointed, because life is just not going to deliver for you. Obviously, there will be pain, suffering, fawahish, moral ambiguity, and it's going to surround us. It's going to be everywhere. That's obvious. Wherever you look, you're going to find these things. It's a part of being on this planet. It's a part of being in the world. Embracing the struggle and taking on life with an attitude of striving and overcoming these challenges is how we achieve prosperity. It's how we actually meet our goals and achieve our objectives. Jannah is of great value, and you can't imagine attaining it is going to be without difficulty or without effort. Even if we're to think about this in akhirah terms, if we're going to use the terminology of the hereafter, you can't imagine attaining something of that great value with no effort. And it comes naturally when I talk about, when anyone talks to you about a great achievement or attaining great success, that you automatically assume that it's going to be hard, right? You automatically, if it isn't, then you start questioning, well, why isn't everyone else doing this? Like, why isn't every living person achieving this? Or am I that awesome? Well, that's another part of it. And that's another problem, is that we're willing to believe that. We're willing actually to lie to ourselves to the point where, I don't know, it's easy for me because I rock. Everyone else is going to struggle with this, right? But the reality is that no, anything that's worth attaining in this life, anything that's worth having in this life is going to take a fair amount of effort, and you're going to have to overcome a lot of challenges to get it. And that's kind of what we're going to chat about a little bit here today. So when we talk about the concept of fitna in the Quran, fitna is, the terminology of fitna is meant, when Allah uses it, He's talking about a difficulty, a tribulation that has the potential of changing your ways. It has the potential of deviating you or changing the way you understand things, the way you see things. That's how the word fitna is used in the Quran. So it's not just a challenge or a difficulty or tribulation or a trial. It's one that has the potential of making you go astray, changing your opinion on something that you shouldn't change your opinion on, or losing your faith, for example, altogether, or ruining your relationships. Meaning it's a tribulation that carries that potential, which all of them do. All of them do, but this word in the Quran, or in the word in Arabic, is one that carries that meaning by default in it. Meaning, you say masa'ib or masa'ib, these are difficulties, misfortunes, and shortcomings. They're just general words. Fitna is a word that carries within its own, within the linguistics of what the word is, the idea of the potential of it causing change within you, meaning you losing something that you would otherwise have. And we use this word a lot. We're going to call it fitna in the community. Meaning it's going to cause people to lose certain opinions, or change their relationship status, or get very upset with one another. So it's a difficulty that's going to lead to people not getting along anymore. So that's even how we use the term, generally speaking. So what types of fitna or difficulties or tribulations that can cause these type of problems are there? And this is just a general list that we can you just use for mental reference. So there are personal struggles that you're handed. So when you think about fitna, you have to think about a number of categories. You have to think about the category of things that you're given, difficulties that you're handed, that you didn't really do anything to attain. Like, you didn't obtain these, you didn't do anything to get them or deserve them. It's just, this is the hand that you were dealt. Different people will be dealt different hands with different degrees of difficulties and fitna within each hand. Meaning, no one is going to live a life that is difficulty-free. It's impossible. Even the people who are extremely wealthy and powerful, they still have fitna in their lives. It's just given to them in a different way. Meaning, the nature of the difficulties that they struggle with are different than the natures of someone who's living in the Sahara Desert, or someone who's growing up in parts of the world, where in a third world country where there's war and conflict. Is different types of tribulation. And identifying the stuff that you didn't really play a role in, and that they're just difficulties that are handed to you, is important, because that's a part of understanding your i'tiqad, and that's called qada. And we just have to accept those and deal with them. And again, persevere and overcome and challenge. There's a set of difficulties that are not really handed to us. We played a role in bringing them upon ourselves, meaning this is something that we did. And we are dealing with the result or the outcome or the consequence of choices that we made. And this is what we call qadr. When you study i'tiqad, I'll call that qadr. I mean, this is what you brought on yourself to a certain degree. You played a role in this. This was not something that just dropped out of the sky on you. You kind of played a role in this. And understanding that is important, that some difficulties you brought upon yourself. There's still difficulty. And when I say fitna and difficulty, and I use this terminology, with that comes an understanding that any difficulty in life that you are facing, you get the ajr of persevering and striving against, right? Even this one. So even this one is seen as that. Even the difficulty that you bring upon yourself by your bad choices is still one that if you persevere in the face of, or you strive against, then you will get ajr for doing that. But you have to be able to identify that there are different types of these difficulties. They're not all the same. Like, one that is handed to you with no fault of yourself is different than one that you brought upon yourself with poor choices in your past. And the example I give here usually is someone driving a car. Those who are driving focused, adhering to the speed limit, and they're not on their phone, and the car is well oiled, and something jumps right in front of them and they hit. You were handed this. You versus someone who's going beyond the speed limit on their phone, half drunk, whatever. He's not focused and they hit someone. That's you kind of brought this on yourself. Like this is and understanding the difference here is very, very critical, very crucial, because you will still persevere and strive against both of them, and you'll get ajr for doing that, but you are accountable for one and not accountable for the other, meaning there's tax on one of them and no tax on the other. Like whatever you're handed that you did nothing to deserve, there's no taxation on it, just persevering, dealing with that difficulty, and it's the purest form of reward that you will find Yawm al-Qiyamah. It's the purest form of reward. There's nothing, it's just reward. There's no debt there at all. There's nothing owed. You were given this difficulty, you did nothing to deserve it, you persevered, this is pure hasanat. You brought this upon yourself, there's a debt that needs to be paid. There's a debt that needs to be paid. You get reward, but there's a chunk of your reward that's going to go as debt for what you did, for your accountable, for your part in bringing this upon yourself, which is why you have to kind of differentiate these two things a little bit. Difficulties that face communities. There are difficulties on the personal level. There's that which you are handed, that which you bring upon yourself, and then there's difficulties that face communities or nations or societies or countries, which are different in nature. These are not the same types of problems. You're talking about the security of your border and the ability to sustain a certain livelihood for the people who live there, certain ethical challenges, security challenges. And there's a lot of different problems that happen. And they're similar for countries. Some of these are handed, meaning if you just live in your country just exists on top of a piece of land that doesn't have a lot of resources or water, then that's a difficulty that you're handed, versus you are corrupt and you have allowed for corruption to ruin the governance system, and now the difficulties that you have are man-made. So the same thing, but they're different types of difficulties and the different types of trials that exist within this world. Challenges, so again, I'm just categorizing things here because and the clearer that this is, the easier this discussion will be, inshallah, moving forward. Challenges of ethical nature, or sexual nature, or financial nature, or social nature. Meaning as a human being, when you're observing, this is a different way of categorizing it, you're seeing that there are difficulties that are of a specific, of a certain nature, versus a challenge that is based on process, meaning how to get things done, the bureaucracy or the methodology of getting things done, versus a challenge of the mindset. So these are just different ways of looking at it. A challenge of a nature, of an ethical nature, meaning of an outcome. Here's what's happening. We don't like this. We don't like people drinking alcohol. We don't want them smoking weed. We don't want them performing these types of behaviors amongst themselves. These are harmful behaviors of either a sexual nature or financial nature or a social nature. But then you have a problem of process, a challenge of process where how things are being done is the issue. It's not what's being done. What's being done is great, and the idea behind it is great. It's just how we're doing it. It's the execution piece that's not happening well. And if anyone who works in a company or runs a company or knows that due process is very, very important. In hospitals, due process is the biggest problem. The reason that you're miserable as the recipient of healthcare is because the process is horrible. We just have bad process. It's really not, the tools are there, the knowledge is there, the resources are there, just we have the processes, and there are different reasons for it. But for example, as a physician, I'll give you an example. When they bring in when a referral is made and the file makes it to the triage, it's not my job to go down to the triage center and go through all these on my own. Someone has to do that, right? Now, if they're hiring people who are incompetent, who don't show up half the time, who don't do their work, that's really not my fault, right? But it's not your fault either. But it's not really my job to go down there and do all this work. Like in terms of the amount of work that we do, it's already, physicians, for example, already overburdened. Like they're already burnt out working way more hours than they need to. This extra piece, but this extra piece is actually affecting people. People aren't getting seen quicker or seen on time because of maybe a simple problem with process. Now, QI is kind of what I do in the hospital, is kind of figuring, okay, where's the bottleneck here? Where's the problem? And how do we fix this? How do we kind of, you get the fish bone and you figure out like the different processes and you come up with a few charts and you figure out, okay, how do we change this process and improve it? But this is a very known challenge where it's just an issue here. Do we find a way to expedite this process to make sure that the triage makes it to the people who need to see it, and then the people are booked in the proper time? Otherwise, really no one's accountable. You can't really hold anyone accountable. It's not my fault that you got seen, and it's not their fault they were on vacation. It's not the hospital's fault. So whose fault is it? And this is what happens when there's lack of any good process and lack of, is that it gets lost. You didn't get seen within the 4 weeks that you should have been seen in, and you lost someone lost their window for surgery or something. And who are you going to blame? You can't blame anyone. You can blame the system, right? And that's the challenge of process, and then challenge of mindset. I put it at the end because really it's the most difficult of all. The challenge of mentalities, when there's lack of understanding things appropriately. And you're going to deal with this a lot in your life. You're going to be facing people who have a very poor mindset, who have very counterproductive mentalities, understandings of things that are very, very poor, which is what if you were to look at these challenges, what am I dealing with? I'm dealing with the last one. I have no input on the hand you're dealt, or the problems you bring upon yourselves, or the problems that are facing a country or a community. This is way beyond me. I'm not trying to fix specific behaviors or processes. What I'm trying to fix are the way people understand things. Because it is, to a certain degree, the root of most of these problems. A proper mindset, a proper understanding of life and the world allows for people to process information appropriately, and then allows them to generate decisions or come up with a decision process that is healthy, and they will behave in ways that are more beneficial for themselves and those around them. When we try to go at the end of the spectrum to fix things, we look at the end of the process, right? Fix the behavior, this financial problem, right? You're trying to, which is what they do, right? And now we're coming towards a recession, so everyone's talking about solutions. My literacy in finance is very low, but even I can tell this is not even a solution. Like, this is not solving anything. Like, it's just a band-aid. You're just making a small, and people celebrate it because all they care is that gas prices come down a little bit and the interest rate comes down and they can buy more beer. As long as they can do that, then everyone's happy, and it doesn't matter. But really, how do you fix the financial problem? You have to go back to the mindset. The mindset is people are spending beyond their means. This is a consumeristic approach to life that is problematic when you're buying and spending more money than you're bringing in. Right? Then that means you're in debt. And if you're in debt, and I'm in debt, and he's in debt, and then the whole country's in debt. And if the country is in debt, then the country can't function, and debt accumulates because the world is based on interest. So the financial system is not going to work. Which is why we hear these weird. I always found it as a child absolutely insane, and I still don't understand it when you say a country is in $3 trillion in debt. What does that mean? To whom? Like, what if these people come knocking, asking for their, I don't understand it. Like, how does this work? No, they're not going to do that. But that's debt. Isn't that what debt is? Debt is that, but no, there's a different type of debt. So, how is this, why is everyone okay with this? As a child, just listening to these numbers, wondering, is someone gonna, I'm waiting for an adult to say that doesn't make any sense, or why is this the case? And everyone seems to be, I don't know, I'm fine. And everyone's just going on with their lives, and I don't understand. This is we owe this, right? Yeah, all of us? Yeah, we do. No one? This is just normal? It seems to be no. The reason being is that we're not solving the problem. The problem is a mentality issue, an issue of mindset, where we are willing to live in debt for long periods of time with no real plan to pay it all off. Rather, just putting in installments that we will die well before we actually finish paying off our debt. And this is a mentality problem. And modern consumerism allows for that. And unfortunately, the way capitalism functions today is that. So you can put band-aids on a failing economy, but it's not fixing the problem. We're not producing anything. We're not actually making anything. We're a community that doesn't really have. What is it? We're not carrying our weight in terms of what we want to buy stuff. You want to live comfortably. Well, you have to put in the work for that. You actually have to produce any services or produce some degree of benefit that the world will want, so that you can sell it, so they can actually. So we're not doing that, and our countries doesn't really have a lot of that. We export maybe some minerals and whatnot, but it's not to the degree that we want to live at. Meaning, we say in Arabic, and you put your feet out for as big as your sajada is. If your sajada is not that long, put your feet in. So we are putting our feet as far as possible, maybe even adding surgical extensions to our legs, when our means don't allow for it. We can't really do that. And this comes from mindset problems. So these difficulties, what I'm talking about is that the world, if you look at the world is filled with difficulties. It's just everywhere. No matter where you look, in whatever direction, there are challenges, there are turbulations, there are fitna. It's just everywhere. It's a part of being alive. The moment you took the first breath, this is what you were facing.
Never let anyone tell you otherwise, and don't believe otherwise, because you're lying to yourself if you do, and that's pretty much the biggest problem for me. The objective of what I'm saying here is not for you to be pessimistic. That's not the goal. The goal is not that you enter life with pessimism. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be, everything's going to be horrible. Even if you're sitting there on a beach, it's sunny, you're happy, it's going to be horrible today. I know something's going to happen. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that, understanding the reality of things allows for proper and healthy approaches to them. If you understand that the world is filled with difficulties and tribulations and problems and challenges, and that they are constantly being dealt out, and that everyone's going to face them, then you enter with that understanding, that expectation, that mentality of striving, that I know that it's not going to be easy, so I'm ready. If I get a pleasant surprise of a certain period of ease, alhamdulillah, I'm very, very grateful for that, and I will make sure I use that time in strengthening myself and strengthening my core, literally speaking or figuratively speaking, strengthening myself so that when this happens, I'm ready. I'm not being taken by surprise. I'm not being blindsided. I don't allow the ease to fool me to think that this is going to go on forever, because that's not how life is designed. And again, it's not pessimism. It's not expecting the worst. You're not told to do that. Islam does not tell you to do that. Neither am I. I'm not saying that that's what you should do. Live, just like, ready, it's going to be horrible in a few days. I know it's been like a few days of ease. No, you're always prepared. Your mentality is, I'm striving, right? And that's really what I want. And the word striving, since I brought it up, is this word. This word is what, is how we understand this concept. To strive, this is a state that you are in as a Muslim. Not a state of mind, not just a state of mind, but a state in general. And I know, no pun intended, not actual state. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Your state. What state are you in right now? You can be in different states, in states of calmness or states of ease. As a Muslim, you're constantly in a state of jihad. You're always striving. You're always striving to be better, to do better, to overcome a challenge, to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to get rid of a sin, to improve the quality of an act of worship, to fix problems within your community or fix your personal struggles. You're always striving. There's always something worth striving against or worth striving for, right? There's always something. So this is the state that you are in. The state of jihad is what the Muslim is in at all times. And this is the healthiest state to be in as a Muslim. It really is very refreshing if you're able to understand this from me today. If you put yourself into that state, that this is how I'm living, every morning you wake up, you're ready. You're ready for what life is going to bring you. Then you're entering actually with not pessimism, you're entering with enthusiasm. Because you're ready, you know that life is going to be throwing some challenges. Some of them will be easy. You'll solve them. You have some skill set. You'll solve them and move on. Some of them are going to be difficult, like declaring Eid and Ramadan. Some of them are going to be absolute nightmares that are going to just suck the life out of you, and you're never going to figure out how to do it, and people are going to continue just to fight over it all the time, and emails and angry people about it. And you just have to kind of accept that that's how life is going to be, and strive against it to the best of your ability, trying not to walk into traffic at any given moment during the day. But this is what jihad is. It's a state that you're in, knowing that it's not going to be easy. It's never designed to be that. And jihad means to exert effort. The juhd is effort. Al-jihad, the derivative, means to exert effort, right? So you're always exerting effort. When you think about that, the opposite of that is not exerting effort, right? Is just slumbering, just lying down, preserving effort at all times. And that's really not what we're supposed to be doing as Muslims. We're preserving effort. No, we're exerting it because there's always something worth exerting it for or against. And there's always something that we can do better, that we should be doing better, that can be beneficial, so we work on that. If we get some downtime and it's quiet and it's less turbulation, then you immediately start looking, what can we improve? Tahseen, right? Ihsan is now, what can we make better here? And that's going to require a certain degree of striving. So if you're dealing with a musibah, then you're putting out a fire and you're exerting effort towards ridding yourself and the people around you from something. But when you have downtime, you say, okay, what can we improve here? Who can we educate? Who can we mentor? Who can we push forward? What khair can we do? But that mentality is there. The idea of I need to rest permanently, or I need my life to be just an ongoing state of resting, which is what most people are trying to do. Most people are trying to figure out the algorithm that will allow them to just yirtah, yish mirtah. And that way of life is just not going to, it's not going to work. It's just not going to, it's not going to happen. Like you're aspiring for something that is pragmatically impossible. It's not, you can't do it. You can put yourself in a position where you're more comfortable so that you can focus on certain aspects of striving better. This is how I explain it. You can make your life comfortable, meaning in terms of your profession and your family and so that you can focus on a certain type of striving that you prefer to focus on. Like you want to focus on this problem, this obstacle that people have, and I want to help fix it. So I'm going to focus my jihad on that. You can make your life comfortable so that you can focus more, so that your concentration can go from 60% on this problem to 70 or 80 or 90% on this problem, or maybe 100% on this problem. People who retire, the mentality they should have is that, okay, now I have time to focus on the jihad that I couldn't give 100% of my time for before because of the fact that I need to make a living. And that should be something that's positive for them, because now they can dedicate themselves to it. And honestly, the elderly community has a lot they can offer because they have time on their hands and they have some experience and wisdom, as long as they're willing to work with people who are younger and maybe be a little bit more flexible on stuff that they weren't flexible on before. So it's just a matter of, again, it's just a mindset, it's a mentality. So to strive against difficulties is kind of what the word is used for the most, but also to strive towards improvement. That's another way of understanding. And all of this is jihad. And it's 41 times in the Quran at least, right? So it's a repeated topic. And I'm going to, maybe I put some evidence here. But the Prophet ﷺ, in his hadith, in his sunnah, he talked about this word a lot. And he would describe it, فَقَالَ وَذِرْوَةُ سِنَامِ الْأَمْرِ الْجِهَادِ, meaning the pinnacle, the highest point of Islam is being in a state of jihad, and he would describe it as the tip of the camel's hump. Like the highest part of the camel is that the highest piece of Islam is being in a constant state of striving towards achieving things. And to me, it's just a mindset that's very healthy, and it's a part of being Muslim. And I talked about this a little bit during the tazkiyah sessions as a part of a triangle of taqwa, jihad, and tawakkul as 3 tools that you carry with you. Like you need them in order to function as Muslim. You have to have these. You have to have tawakkul. It's how you deal with what's happening. How do you react? Taqwa is your safety valve on your decision making, and then jihad is the state that you're in. It's a state of mind. I'm always ready, knowing that yes, something's going to come up, and when it does, I'll deal with it. And if I have some downtime, then I'll see, okay, there's things that need to be improved, and I work towards them. So, just to make a few statements that I think are worthy of sharing. So jihad is one of the most important Islamic concepts by far. It's very central to our deen. Unfortunately, I think the reason that this has changed a little bit for us, like the concept of trials and difficulties and how we see them, comes from the fact that this word was plucked out of our terminology for maybe a decade and a half or two. After 9/11, this word became taboo. You didn't want to use this word. If you were called named jihad, you can't change your name. If you were on the minbar, you didn't use the word, because people took this word in the world as a very negative. There's not a very negative connotation surrounding it. But what that led to is that this word, and the essence of it, got lost as well. Like the essence of it also got lost, which is why we have to revive it a bit, which is why I'm putting it here. It's an obvious thing, but maybe it's not as obvious as it once was, just due to the fact that using the word became difficult. And there's a difference, a very clear difference between jihad as striving and qital as combat. They're not the same. Qital is very specific, and the Quran uses that word. وقاتلوا في سبيل الله الذين يقاتلون ألم تر الذين قيل لهم كفوا أيديهم وأقيموا الصلاة فلما كتب عليهم القتال. Because jihad has always been obligatory, but when they were obligated to go to combat, the Sahaba started asking questions. Do we have to fight and bear arms? And the Quran is filled with verses that is encouraging them to show bravery on the battlefield and to fight when they need to fight. But qital, there was a time where it was not even permissible. أُذِنَ لِلَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَ بِأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا. They've been granted permission to fight the people who have been oppressed. But jihad has always been there. As a concept, it's always been a part of our deen. That's why you find the Makki surahs talk about it. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Those who strive for our sake. And this is a Makki surah before it was even permissible to carry a sword, right? So the concept of jihad is very, it's innate and it's authentic within our deen, and it did not require a specific time for it to become obligatory. No, it was always a part of how Islam was understood. It describes a state that a Muslim should always be in. Right? This is important for you. This is really, if you take nothing away from today, just take away that. That jihad is a state. You have to be in the state of striving, right, at all times. And depending on what your situation is, you're either striving for something or striving against something. It's really whatever. It ranges in difficulty and varies in form. Some people are striving against themselves. Some people are striving towards getting rid of bad habits or picking up good habits, or striving against oppression, or striving against those who are mistreating them, or striving against bad friendships. You're striving. There's different forms of striving. And really what it does for you is that it makes every act in your life an act of worship. Like everything that you do in life becomes an act of worship, because if your state is striving, then everything that you're doing is trying to help you strive towards or against something that is displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which makes every act that sustains your livelihood, that allows you to live, the food that you eat, you get hasanat within it. You don't have to sit there and make a specific intention. Obviously, you have to sammi billah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ta'kul bi yaminik, follow the etiquette and the sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. But the food itself, you get ajr for eating it, because this food is sustaining you, and all you do is strive towards or against something for the sake of Allah. So your whole life is striving. So everything that sustains it, everything that makes it more comfortable, everything that serves your life will be by default something that you get rewarded for. So even your leisure time, even time that you take off for yourself, where you just go and relax, but because you need to regroup, and because you have some burnout and you need to be able to come back with that same energy, you get ajr for doing that. Because your life is actually for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I call this the umbrella concept, where everything falls under the main goal. What's the main goal of your life? Well, I'm striving for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm identifying challenges and difficulties that exist, and I'm trying to fix them. Whether it's communal problems that I'm trying to help, or it's personal problems that I'm trying to fix, or improvements that I see are possible, I'm trying to bring forward, but I'm striving one way or the other. And that is in opposition to a life where you just want to relax and rest and not be involved. Like, everything, there's an opposition to it. Like, in order for it to be defined well, you have to have the opposite. The opposite of a life of striving is a life where you are carefree, where you are focused on nothing but your leisure, but your comfort, but your pleasure, and nothing else really matters to you. And the problem with that is not that I don't think you should live that way. If you can afford, go ahead. It's just that life won't let you live that way. Like, it's not really about whether you should or you shouldn't. It's about that you can't. And it'll be very miserable when you figure out that you can't. Meaning, if you're trying to live that way and you've managed a year or two or three or maybe even a decade, then life will deal you a hand that you didn't expect and you don't like. And if you weren't in the mentality of striving to begin with, knowing that, look, it's going to be a difficulty coming at some point, so then you're going to be very disappointed and upset. And I see it all the time, and because one of the ugly cards that you can be dealt in a hand is cancer, like that, and that comes out of nowhere for a lot of people. It comes absolutely out of nowhere. For many people, they did nothing. It's not even their genetics. They don't even know why. Right? And then if the mentality was not correct to begin with, the expectations regarding it becomes very difficult to accept it and to deal with it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve all of you, inshallah, and preserve your health. But I'm just saying that I get to see this a lot. If you're in the mentality that life is difficult, which is why I'm saying people who grew up in the desert, they had a different life story. Everything was difficult, right? To get a day of ease was actually a big deal. It was hard. It was hard to make a daily living was not easy. To survive the first years of childhood, to survive your youth, to survive the wars and the ongoing, it was hard. So people didn't really ask these questions, that what mentality should I have? This mentality was forced upon them. You had to have this mentality in order to survive, or else you wouldn't survive to begin with. But when you grow up in ease, you're protected, then it's easy it becomes, people can lose that. They can have false perceptions of the world that will lead to them not living a life of striving, and then being very disappointed when things don't work out the way they want them to work out. I quote this ayah in the Quran because I find it to be very, very clear, and I think I spent maybe a full lesson, a full hour when we did the tafsir of Surah Al-Ankabut, just talking about the first or second ayah, really, and they're very worthy of it, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins this Surah Al-Ankabut, which talks about the relationship we have with life. Interestingly enough, the surah talks about the relationship we have with the dahr, with the world, with time. basically our lives. And he begins the surah very clearly with there's no introduction. Alif Lam Mim ahasiba an-nasu an yutraku an yaqulu amanna wa hum la yuftanun. The people think that was possible, that they were going to be left to say, we believe in Allah, we accept Allah, we love Allah, and they get no tribulation, no difficulty at all. It's just going to be a red carpet until the end of the no. وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّا الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. Indeed, we tested everyone who came before them. فَلَا يَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا وَلَا يَعْلَمَنَّ الْكَاذِبِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will expose the truthful. Truthful as in what? As in when they gave their statement, آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ, Allah will expose the truth in that. He'll make sure that you have no way to lie about it Yawm al-Qiyamah, that your actions will speak louder than your words, and it will be obvious whether you truly believe in Allah or not. وَلَا يَعْلَمَنَّ الْكَاذِبِينَ. It will expose the liars, those who make the claim, talk the talk, don't walk the walk. It'll be made clear. And this is the promise that we have in our deen. I'm going to point some of this out, inshallah, to you. The dilemma of pain. One of the important things to understand are certain words. These words, these buzzwords of pain and struggle. These are words that exist outside of the realm of Islam even, and talked about philosophically, talked about religiously and non-religiously as well. Why is there pain in this world? And if there is a creator, then why did he put pain here? To me, it's one of the silliest questions that have ever really existed. Because for you to say that means that you figured out how to create a universe painlessly. And you're just wondering why God didn't, do that. What you're saying is that I figured out how to make life, how to create life, and allow life to be functional, allow there to be a story of trials without pain. And you're just wondering why the Almighty didn't do it. No, Jalla Jalalullah, that is absolute nonsense. Because we don't even understand the nature of our own existence to be able to imagine what goes into creating a universe and creating life within it and making it purposeful and giving to assume that is very weird. And it shows, again, it comes from a background of someone who has the luxury who just lived with a golden spoon. Like everything was handed to them. Otherwise, if you understand anything about nature, nature is filled with pain. Now, you come into this world through pain, and you leave this world with pain. And pain is really the only way that we can identify life. Like, what is the opposite? How do you know if something's alive? Can it feel pain? If it can't feel pain, then it's not really alive, even though it may be breathing. It may be breathing. It's not really life that it's experiencing. It may be experiencing something less than that. Which is why people who go numb, who stop feeling altogether, they are usually admitted to hospitals, and there's no point of chatting with them anymore or doing anything because they're not responsive, because they stopped feeling altogether. It's through pain that we are able to actually grow. It's through pain that we are capable of understanding the world. It's one of the central motives of our existence is avoiding it and trying to improve our lives so we have less of it. I love this quote. It's very daily, but I don't really care the people who say the quotes. It's, when I'm reading, I care about what's being said. And so if you don't like the person who I'm quoting here, it's fine. You just listen to the words. When there is pain, the animal instinct is fight or flight. This is what you feel. The moment you feel pain, either you want to fight back or you want to run away. One of the two things. It's just how we're, evolutionarily, it's how we're rigged and programmed. So instead of doing that, reflect. Reflect on what just happened instead of succumbing to those two feelings. Where you felt pain, so you want to lash out against the one who brought you pain, or lash out against the universe, or lash out against God, or you run away. You want to hide somewhere, so you run to others to comfort you and to tell you that it's okay. And instead of doing either of these things before you do any of them, because you may end up doing one of them anyways, you just reflect a little bit. Because when you can calm yourself down, is what he said, thinking about the dilemma that is causing you pain, it will bring you a higher level and enlighten you, leading you to progress. If you're capable of doing this, if you're capable of calming down, reflecting on the pain itself, where it came from, what caused it, then and only then can you benefit from this, and you can enlighten yourself, and you can figure out steps that can be taken to alleviate it or to prevent it from happening again. And when you don't do that, you'll miss out on the opportunity. You miss out on the opportunity because when you're feeling the pain, it's the freshest moment, and you have the most clarity on why it happened, and you're capable most at that moment to actually answer some of these questions. Many people do this later on in life, meaning they feel a pain at a certain time, and 20 years later, they reflect on it. But that reflection is not as meaningful because you've lost a lot of the clarity on what actually happened back then. You don't remember all the details. You remember certain things. You're able to point out certain things, but you may even have a distorted sense of reality that leads to the fact that you may start poking at something that didn't really cause the pain, that you just assumed later on that caused the pain. But if you reflected at the time, then you probably would have figured that out in a better manner and actually pinpointed what exactly caused it. The dilemma of pain is something that we don't want, and we absolutely think is evil, but without it, there's very little ability to progress and to move forward. The only way to know something is to know its opposite. Like the only way you can define something is you have to define its opposite. If you can't define an opposite to it, then you can't define it. Like if I have a rock, I can't say this rock is sick. Because in order for me to say this, unless I'm using it figuratively because it's a cool looking rock, but I can't use the word that this rock is ill, because I would have to be able to define what a healthy rock is. Now, if I come up with a definition, and I say, okay, healthy rocks are rocks that have 1, 2, 3, then I can be able to define what an ill rock is. But otherwise, this terminology cannot be used on the rock, because it's not, I can't say this is a productive rock. Right? Because unless, again, I'm going to provide a definition, because this rock has been used in a dam and it's holding back water, so it's very productive. Other rocks are sitting there doing nothing. But I have to define things. So without definitions, it's difficult to understand life. So if you remove pain, then how do you define pleasure? How do you define ease? How do you define leisure? How do you define joy and happiness? If you remove pain, it's undefinable. You can't define it anymore. It doesn't mean anything, and it stops having any value at all. And this whole story that we are living as human beings becomes immediately, utterly worthless, and it's no longer possible. It's not possible anymore. If you only eat sugar and you've never tasted salt, sugar is not something that you find interesting, nor do you even understand the definition for. Meaning, it'll be difficult the moment that you understand, you'll only understand sugar once you're given salt. Let me explain this a little bit more. People who grow up without eyesight by the age of 8 will never see, right? They'll never see. This is medically very well known. You'll study this in medical school. Why? Because they don't have something to compare to. Their brains evolve and are now at a point of steady, and a certain aspect of it is a steady state, and the brain has never been given anything to compare to. So what's coming in from the outside is never, even if it gets to see just once or twice, a few changes, then that will allow them to understand any visual, intake and visual input. But if it never sees anything, then the brain, even when you open its eyes and it starts seeing, it won't understand anything, because it came into a steady state of its own evolvement or evolution or maturity, and it never had anything to compare darkness with light. It never got that. So it doesn't understand. So people can be like people who had problems in their eyeballs, not in their brains, but grew up blind, and at the age of 10 or 11 were able to do like a transplant of eyeballs. They did that, and the people didn't. They almost gorged their eyes out. They didn't want to see because they couldn't understand what they were seeing. They couldn't, depth perception and contrast and color and movement. They couldn't understand. Their occipital cortex could not comprehend this, because there was nothing. It grew up, it evolved and matured with never having anything to compare to. Because that's how we understand things. We need a comparison. In order for white to be a color, black has to be a color. Or I can't see the difference between the two. I have to be able to have that. So this is very important for understanding. So pain is essential. It's essential for life. In order for life to mean something, it has to have pain in it. In order for there to be pleasure and leisure, there has to be pain. For you to say, why is there pain? It's what are you talking about? What are you even, do you understand what you're actually even asking here? And what you're asking for is not even it's not even a question. It's not even a philosophical debate or suggestion that is even mildly or remotely acceptable, because you're basically changing the whole premise of existence. You are suggesting an existence that is completely different than this one, that you and I wouldn't even necessarily understand or comprehend. But we say it because we don't like pain, and that's understandable. The paradox of suffering. There's this paradox of suffering, and I love this quote. This is one of the great paradoxes of suffering. Those who don't suffer much think suffering should keep people from God, while many who suffer a great deal turn to God, not from Him. People who are always worried about suffering, and they fear that suffering will make them less religious. It's funny, people who suffer the most are the people who are closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their lives. because suffering just allows you to appreciate. See, if you were living a life of ease, right, it's only suffering that will make you appreciate and acknowledge what that was like. It's only suffering that will make you feel, that was really good. Like, those were really good years. Oh my God, those were the best years. I was healthy. I had people who loved me, surrounded me. I had enough wealth to take care of myself. I wasn't worried. I was safe, right? Those become so much more meaningful. And you're so much more grateful for the times that you had when those things occurred. So you're much more appreciative to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what He gave you, just through the fact that without that suffering, without pain, you'll never know. You would never know. Which is why parents get so upset with their children, because children who never experience anything aside from ease and don't suffer and don't have any pain won't understand. Like, it's not their fault. Like, it's not their fault that they don't appreciate what they have. They have never been given anything else to compare to. They have to suffer to say, oh, that was actually amazing. I'll take care of that more next time. But we don't let them suffer, because we're too protective of them. So they grow up, they're spoiled, they're entitled, and they don't learn much, and they mature way later than they should. And then they get married, and they're just as immature as they were when they were kids. So they divorce and fight with their spouses on petty things, because they're not. Mature people don't focus on stuff like that. People who have suffered, they're less likely to feel that way, to get all caught up on little stuff that don't matter. They think bigger, because, like, alhamdulillah, I told this story I think before, and I've always found it to be like, Sheikh Shukri, once we were sitting, and he was, someone was reading Quran to him, and another student was waiting, and one of his students came in, and his face was all, you could tell this guy wasn't doing well. And he was sitting there waiting. He wanted to talk, and the sheikh doesn't really have time. He's like, okay, fine. What do you want? If the guy starts complaining about his wife and his new marriage, he's miserable. So I remember the sheikh told him, أتقول لا إله إلا الله? Does your wife say لا إله إلا الله? And he said, yes. قال قم. Get out of my face. Get out of my face. Don't complain. Yeah, and this is how he saw things. You have a spouse, he says, La ilaha illallah, she's worth the, you keep on. Now, I'm not saying that that's how you're supposed to live your life, and obviously there's a million other things that happen here. And this is not marital advice by any measure. But I'm just saying that this is how, he's a man in he was in his late 80s or early 90s at the time. So at that point in his life, to him, it was like, as long as she adheres to La ilaha illallah, she loves Islam, she loves the deen, then really just, suck it up. Just move it along. Just don't complain too much about stuff. You're good. Like, you're focusing on stuff that don't matter. Because at that point, you've suffered enough, you've been through enough pain that you kind of know what the priorities are, and you have them really straight, they're really clear to you. But I'm just saying, I thought that as a kid, I was very taken back, because I thought he would listen to him a bit more, but he didn't. He kicked him out pretty quickly. The Prophet ﷺ, he taught us a lot of these things. His quotes here are very powerful. When the Prophet ﷺ said, "Ashaddu an-nasi," he was asked, "Man ashaddu an-nasi bala'an?" Who are the people who are trialed the most? Who are the people who have the most difficulties, the most fitnas in their lives? The Prophet ﷺ said, "Al-anbiya." The most people who see the most difficulties are anbiya. ثُمَّ الْأَمْثَلُ فَالْأَمْثَلُ. And then those who are ranked after them in closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يُبْتَلَى الْمَرْءُ عَلَى حَسْبِ دِينِهِ. The human being will be held accountable based on their deen, based on how much religion they have, based on how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them in terms of faith. The more faithful you are, the closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more challenges He throws your way. Because the more challenges you get, the more perseverance you show, the more striving you do, the higher your ajr yawm al-qiyamah is. Amazing. For you, yawm al-qiyamah, this is what you're looking for. You're hoping for this. It's funny, this paradox of pain. They talk about it from their perspective. I have a perspective that is Islamic from it. The paradox of struggling in pain for me is that in dunya, you absolutely hate it, but yawm al-qiyamah, it is what you're looking for in your book. It's what you're going through the pages quickly to find as many of them as possible. Tax-free hasanat. Tax-free reward, nothing. You own nothing for them. It's just, this is a difficulty that you were given, and then you persevered in this face, and now you have all these hasanat that are just pure. Like, you own nothing. There's no debt on it. So to you, this is the best. The more you have of those things, the better. That's why إِنَّمَا يُوَفَّى الصَّابِرُونَ أَجْرَهُم بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. That's why the sabirun, the perseverant, will come to a point where they have so many of these that it's direct access to Jannah. It's a VIP pathway. You don't have to stand in line. There's no accountability needed. You have way too many difficulties that you persevered for. You're way beyond quota. Go ahead. There's no point of you standing. What are you going to ask you about? There's nothing to ask you about. In life, every difficulty was something you hated. Every difficulty is something that made you sad and made you upset and made you worry and made, like something that you were, but Yawm al-Qiyamah, it is your absolute joy. So this paradox of pain and suffering, that happens Yawm al-Qiyamah, is the thing you're looking for. What you're worried about Yawm al-Qiyamah are all the moments of ease. The stuff that we enjoyed in this dunya is what we worry about Yawm al-Qiyamah. Did I show gratitude? Should I have enjoyed it that much? Should I have indulged that much? Was it halal? Was that the right moment? Was there a priority that I missed? Should I have been doing something different? All these questions, and Allahu A'lam what the answers are for all these questions, and God knows whether He'll accept your excuse for them or not. Allahu A'lam, may Allah forgive us. But this is the understanding of it, that we have in our deen. ما يصيب المسلم من نصب ولا وصب ولا هم ولا حزن ولا أذى ولا غم حتى الشوكة يشاكها إلا كفر الله بها من خطاياه. The Muslim will not undergo any form, and he uses like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 words or 6 words to describe difficulty. Nasab and wasab and hum and adha and hazan and gham. All these words to explain the same thing. Just some form of turbulation, something that bothered you, some discomfort that you underwent. Even the shawka, even if you get a shawka in your hand or in your foot, you're walking. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will use that to remove your khataya, as long there's an implied. This is why I'm doing this course, or this, because there's something obvious here that he doesn't have to say here, alayhi salatu wasalam. There's something that's obvious that is implied in this hadith, that you are someone who is striving for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you persevere. He doesn't have to say that there. Why? Well, it would be helpful. No, he doesn't have to say that, because that's implied. That's obvious. Why would he point out the obvious, alayhi salatu wasalam? Why would he say something that doesn't need to be said? It's known. The premise for this hadith, that the understanding here is that you're someone who is continuously striving for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you're persevering when a difficulty comes your way. That being understood, then when you undergo difficulty of any sort, even the smallest amount, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes your sin. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kaffara khatayana. But this is the comprehension that we have of this. So a few points on pain and suffering. I'm almost done, inshallah. Often used as a reason to reject God and religion. And it's one of the most ridiculous reasons, in my opinion, but it ranks very high. It ranks very high. Actually, it ranks number 1 after the Arabic Spring. It ranked number 1 after the Arabic Spring. It wasn't number 1. It wasn't even close. Didn't even make the list. And there are certain institutions that do these surveys. It made number 1 or number 2 after the Arabic Spring, because people saw so much blood, so much death, so much forced immigrations and torture, and that they lost their faith. When people are going into a prison and treated like animals for years upon years upon years, when a lady walks into a prison at 18, comes out with 3 or 4 children at 30, from farther she doesn't know, from rape, then this is a difficulty that people struggle to understand. And they say, well, no, this pain, I don't accept this pain. Well, this pain is a part of life. It's a part of the struggle. Yes, things like this can happen. Our job is actually to be here to alleviate pain, to relieve pain, to prevent pain for people. That's our job. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to do. We're trying to do that at all times. And when it does happen and we did not change it, then we are accountable for that. And the person perseveres in its face. And every pain is temporary. No pain is forever, because we don't live forever to begin with. So all pain is temporary. And once it's over, then what you're left with is the perseverance that you showed. You're left with the striving that you put forward and the ajr that is waiting for you. So really, this is just the understanding of what pain is in this world, is that it's a way for us to prove our ability to stand our ground. It's a way for us to prove our ability to adhere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ruling, and to be the best people we can be in face of these oncoming difficulties. But it's just a part of the equation of being alive. Yes, there's an infinite number of possibilities of things going wrong. Right? That's how life is. There's an infinite number of possibilities of things going wrong at every given moment. Right now, there's an infinite way of things going wrong for us. The fact that we're sitting here for like an hour and we're all fine is miraculous, because you have no idea how many things can go wrong for all of us at any time. Alhamdulillah, it's not happening, so we enjoy the moment, but that's the understanding of the world. It puts you in a mentality. The point of this pain being there is it puts you in a mindset. I'm here to exert my effort, to prove my worth, to prove my ability to do things and to achieve goals and to overcome obstacles. If I want to make the Jannah, that's what I have to do. Pain and suffering are a part of nature, necessary for our existence. Life begins and ends in pain. Remember this piece. Pain to me is not a shubha. It's not a problem. It's not a theological problem. I have to talk about it whenever I do a series on Aqidah, because people use it, but it's not really. Because to suggest or to think that pain could not exist means that you're talking outside of the parameters of what is philosophically possible for us to even think about. because removing it removes almost the whole premise of existence. Why do creatures try and to improve? It's based on this one problem. We understand that our job is to relieve pain, persevere when we endure pain, and seek reward for accepting pain when we have to live with it. That's how we understand our lives. That we are here to work towards alleviating pain, removing pain, persevering in the face of pain, and then showing content to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we're forced to live with a certain type of pain, whether a pain that happened in our past, a struggle that we are struck with but we can't seem to get rid of. Whatever it is, the reward comes with that. Pain is the central motivation for human growth and progress, and for everything's progress. Like when you think about that first cell, what was it running away from? It was running away from the pain of death, from the pain of starvation, from the pain of lack of nourishment. So it would move. It developed ways to move. It developed ways to take in more energy, to preserve itself, to warm itself. It's trying to get away from pain. Everything is trying to get away from potential pain. Everything. But the difference that you have as a Muslim is that you accept that you can't dodge all pain, that some pain is going to come your way, and you're okay with that, and your mentality, your mindset, I'm going to strive against it, I'm going to persevere in the face of this pain. That's the difference, that you just have that mindset. You know that some degree of it is inevitable. Yes, you will try your best to remove it from your life and the life of the people that you love, but you know that it's not possible to dodge all pain. It's very healthy. It's very healthy, because if you thought otherwise, it's a problem. Islam is designed to alleviate all kinds of pain. That's the beauty of Islam. Every ruling in Islam is designed to alleviate different kinds of pain, whether it's mental pain or spiritual pain or physical pain or social pain or financial pain. That's why the Prophet ﷺ ate less, slept less, and had a good health routine. He woke up early and he was healthy physically. That's why zakah is fard and sadaqah is recommended and riba is haram, because this alleviates pain that comes from financial background. That's why we meditate and we contemplate and we reflect and we pray in jama'ah, and we have why? Because it alleviates mental and psychological pain. That's why we have certain there's birr al-walidain and salat al-rahim to alleviate social pain. Everything in Islam is to make sure that you live this way, then you remove the potential for a lot of unnecessary pain. Unnecessary pain that exists, and Islam is designed to do that. When we don't follow Islam, we don't follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's teachings, we are subjecting ourselves to more pain. Right? And it's useless. It's unnecessary pain that people did not have to suffer with. That you could achieve a certain degree of peace of mind and heart and political peace and financial peace if you followed what he taught subhanahu wa ta'ala, alleviating pain. My final piece, expectations. So the trick today really is expectations. That is the trick. Really, that's all you need to know. And I teach this in Tazkiyah sessions quite often. We talk about expectations early on. Have the proper expectations of everything. Oh, did it move? There you go. All right. Have the proper expectations. If you have the proper expectations, you are capable of functioning well. I am here to point out the obvious expectations that you should have. Your expectations is that life will have a series of tribulations, fitna, difficulties, shortcomings, misfortunes, hardships that are there. They're in the books for you. Some of them you've already dealt with. Some of it you're dealing with it right now. Some of them are coming your way. You can always turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, Ya Allah, ij'alni abda ihsanin la abda imtihan. Make me an abd where you just show your rahmah to, and not a abd that will be tested. But I'm telling you, the prophets didn't get that. And if the prophets of Allah didn't get that, then I don't know to what degree we have the right to ask for that. You can ask for it, that's fine. It shows that you have an understanding, a healthy understanding of the world. But your expectation is that no, there's going to be challenges. It's not going to be easy. I'm going to get married. It's not going to be easy. I'm going to have a child. It's not going to be easy. I'm going to take on this job. It's not going to be easy. You accept that. It's not being pessimistic. I made this point at the beginning because it's important that you understand this from me. That the point of this is not pessimism. It's preparation. It's setting correct expectations. What governs you and your happiness in life is what expectations you have. If you have high expectations from everyone around you and low expectations from yourself, you're going to be miserable. You're going to be upset, you're going to be disgruntled, you're going to be angry at all times, and you're going to be very disappointed, and you're going to die that way. And that's how you'll be remembered. As a high maintenance person who expected a lot from others and no one wanted to be around because it was impossible to be around them. Right? If you have expectations of everyone, if you have less expectations of people around you and more expectations from yourself, you function better. So the question becomes, what expectations can we have from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What expectations are you allowed to have from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Think about this, because anything you answer, it could be potentially very problematic. Right? You can only expect from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that which He promised you. Right? You can't expect anything else. What did He promise you? He promised you justice yawm al-qiyamah. He promised you difficulties in this dunya and trials that He'll hold you through. And He promised you that if you do your job well, He will reward you. That's what He promised you. That's the expectations you can have from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't really have any other expectations. Imagine right now in my life, I expect, this happens all the time, I expect that I get one more gift, right? I expect that He allows me to do one more thing. I expect it from Him. I don't get it, I get upset. That shows a degree of entitlement that I carry that is very, very problematic and is pathological, and it's disrespectful. He's already given me so much with nothing in return from me. Many of what He gave me was given way before I could claim a deservance. Like before I can't claim that now, but even way before I could even begin to make that claim, for me to say I deserve this, well, a lot of what I was given way before I could say anything like that, because I was still in the womb and I was a baby and I was a child I don't remember any of it. So a lot of it was given then. So all of these things that He gave me, subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I have no way to pay Him back for, I don't have any way to be entitled. Like there's no reason for me to be entitled. I can't say that I deserve them. For me to have an expectation of more, shows a certain degree of greed and disrespect. And that's a problem. You're not allowed to, you don't have that expectation. You can have hopes. You can have husn dhann. All of these things are nice. You can have good assumptions. You can make dua that Allah, and you can hope that Allah will give you all these things are very healthy. Expectations aren't. Because expectations mean I deserve this, I expect it, it has to come. If it doesn't, then you broke the code. Then you ruined this equation, you broke the deal. You didn't say, no, the deal, he supplied the deal long time ago. Like He oversupplied your deal years ago. You're living in debt. You're living in a lot of debt as we speak. We're already, all of us, we're living in so much debt to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that for me to have more expectations of Him is very rude. And for me to have expectations of the world is just ignorant. Even if you don't believe in God. Again, many of these sessions don't require you to be religious to understand them. If you expect that from the world, that's ignorant, because that's not how the world works. And I'm sorry to break it to you, you're going to be very upset very soon. And no one can make you happy. Like you're going to be impossible to please, because the world didn't give you what you wanted. You wanted something and the world didn't give it to you, and you're not able to get over that. The world does not see you to be deserving of anything. And you have no control over it. And it will do whatever it's going to do, and you have to. Expectations are one of the most powerful things. The example I give, and I'll give you this, it's a silly example, but it's something that I have daily. When I go to work, if I'm expecting, for example, you have a clinic, I have a big clinic. If I'm expecting to see, for example, 8 patients that day or 10, and I see 15 or 12, I'm upset, right? And I feel like the other people I was working with were lazy, and that the physician that I was working with, just muled me because he didn't want to get up and, see people, so just made me do all the work. If I enter expecting to see 20 and I see 12 or 15, it's a good day, right? It's a good day. What changed? Nothing. I saw the exact same number. It's just, what did I enter expecting? What expectations did I have? So life is the same in so many different ways. Like this is a simple example, but you can draw analogies to all of life, like your whole life. What are you expecting? What are you expecting? This is what I'm trying to teach you here. Pointing out the you expect that there's going to be a certain degree of turbulation and difficulty, and it's not pessimism. This is realism. Wallahi, it's not pessimism. Pessimism is not accepting ease. Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granting you ease and say, no, it's impossible. There has to be a catch to this. This won't go on for any. That's pessimism. Or not being able to see progress when it occurs, or not able to appreciate ease when it's granted to you. That's pessimism. No, realism is understanding, just knowing what the reality is. And reality is that life is filled with these difficulties and turbulations and struggles and obstacles. So entering with the expectation that many of these will occur. And what does that expectation translate into? It translates into a mindset of striving. So you enter with the attitude, so you don't enter upset. I'm not here today to tell you, enter upset and depressed and, oh, it's going to be horrible. This whole thing's going to be, I know it's going to be horrible. No, no. You enter with the mindset of striving. I'm going to, inshallah, overcome these things. I'm going to persevere. I'm going to be the best person I can be in the face of these difficulties. I'm going to strive to make things better. I'm going to strive when I'm put in a position facing a musibah of some sort, or a poor hand being dealt or something. That is the mindset that these expectations allow you to set. In marriage, Yahi, expectations are a really helpful way to hold on to your marriage. I always tell you, this is to me the easiest way. If you enter your marriage expecting more from yourself and less from the other person, you're happy. If you enter your marriage expecting a lot from the other person and less from yourself, you're going to be miserable. And this leads to talaq. And both people are sitting there expecting the other one to do something, right? I'm expecting him or her to do this, and they didn't do it, I'm all disgruntled. Right? And they're expecting the same from me. So how are we going to fix this problem? If both are expecting the same thing from the other person, who is supposed to do this? Who's going to come in? You're going to bring in a qadi? You're going to bring a judge for this problem to actually decide who is supposed to do it? Or maybe you just stop expecting more from people. This is the trick for my life. I expect from people nothing. Zero. I expect nothing from them at all. So anything they do, anything of khair that they do makes me happy. Alhamdulillah, amazing. And the few people that I have expectations of continuously boil my blood. The people who I do have some expectations of drive me nuts because they're always falling short. They're always disappointing me, so they're driving me crazy. So it's very hard. And when you have people that for example, students, I'm supposed to expect more of students and my children. I'm supposed to do that, or else I'm going to teach them. But they're always going to fall short. So I'm always praying. You're praying in salah, maybe enjoying it. I'm up there disgruntled. I'm up here very upset, waiting for the end of salah to take this guy into the room and scream at him for 15 minutes because I explained to him 100 times that you have to pick takbir in a voice that people can hear. Like you have to actually, you get where I'm going with this. So this is the point I'm trying to make. So expectations allow you to find a certain degree of happiness in your life, because you enter with the mentality of striving, so you know it's going to be hard, so you go for it. And the more expectations you have of people, the less likely you are going to strive, the less likely you're going to be able to be happy in your life, because you're expecting others to do things, and you really don't have any premise for that. You have no basis for that. But we do have to expect, obviously, from people that we are in charge of raising and teaching and growing. Or if we don't have expectations from them, then we can't help them actually, meet progress. But my advice to you is have less expectations from people in general, and you'll just be happier that way. You'll keep more friends. You'll have less enemies, and you'll sleep better at night, and you won't feel as frustrated and upset when you don't do that. And this is just these expectations that I'm pointing out for you at the end of this lecture is what the Prophet ﷺ taught. This is what he taught. This is how he lived his life, ﷺ. He only expected from the people who said, Ya Rasulullah, we want to be the best. So he expected from them. Any mistake, he got upset with them. But others, munafiqeen, Ya Rasulullah, we are sick. Okay, fine. Allah yaghfir lak, Allah ma'ak. I don't care, whatever. Like, I don't have any expectation from I didn't expect you to come with me anyways, so it doesn't matter to me. But Ka'b, when he said the truth, no, ta'al, 50 days, no one will speak to you. Why? He's the only one who said the truth. Yeah, because we expect more from you. We expect more from you, Ya Hatib. You should have been better, because you are one of us. You're on this side of the rails. You stand here with us. You're one of the Ahl Badr. Why are you on the other side? We don't have expectation from the other side. Ahl Said, if they want to come join us and be held to this standard, we'll hold them to that standard. Otherwise, we don't really have many expectations from them. Wallah is very helpful. Learn this early on in life, and you'll save white hairs, and you'll save a lot of misery. I'll end with that, inshallah. Subhanaka wa bihamdika, la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka wa 'azzama ala nabiyyina wa habibina wa qurrati a'yunina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Jazakumullahu khair, barakallahu fikum. See you tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.